I love the art.
Everybody to...
All right, we're ready.
All right, thank you, Jacob. All right, good evening, everybody. Today is March 2nd, 2022, and this is the regular meeting of the Oregon City Commission. I'm calling this meeting to order. Mr. Wiley, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Adam Marl.
Here.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Here.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Here.
And Mayor Rachel L. Smith.
Here. Will you all please join me in the flag salute? Flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, God, indivisible, for all. All right, so on our agenda, we don't have any ceremonies and proclamations. Our next item is citizen comments. We do have a few. We have three. Armando Borison? I'm sorry. You can tell us your name and your city of residence for the record. You'll have 3 minutes as soon as you get seated and comfortable.
Thank you. Before I begin my prepared remarks, I wonder if all the relevant people have had a chance to review the materials that I previously sent. You guys receive anything? No? Okay.
We have 2 letters.
Yes.
From the Trillium. Is this about the Trillium Park Drive?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the slideshow, of course, which is up. Thank you for that, Jacob.
Okay.
All right. So.
Your name for the record, please.
My name is Armando. Sorry. My name is Armando Borboa, and I'm the new Trillium Park HOA board president, and I'm here to address the landslide and street closure that happened in the middle of our neighborhood. Okay, so I know this committee has been, excuse me, getting old sucks. So I know this committee has been previously briefed on the city's plan to fix this issue, but I'd like to address you from the homeowner's point of view. That said, I do want to take a moment and say that John Lewis and John Burrell from the city have been extremely responsive to all of our questions and concerns. They have made themselves available numerous times to our membership and have answered our emailed questions in an incredibly timely manner. The only reason I'm here before you today is because the wheels of bureaucracy do tend to roll rather slowly, and the intent of our HOA board is to ensure the plans for the landslide fix are finalized by the March-April deadline that ensures a summer fix. First slide, okay, right there, okay. So as you can see here, this is the current proposal from the city's own slideshow. The intent, as far as we understand it, is to completely rip out the street and both sidewalks from Canyon Court on the right side of the screen, all the way to the left to the final unimproved tax lot on Trillium Park Drive. The plan is to replace the street with a 14.5-foot wide walking path that would double as an emergency vehicle access road with trees and native plants taking up the rest of this space. Next slide. This is the concept of the plan from ground level. This plan as is doesn't work for our community for a number of reasons that I'll go into. Please note, we are not asking to throw out the current plan wholesale. We understand that the city simply cannot afford a $3.2 million fix for the road, actually the third fix if I'm correct, and we are willing to make compromises. At the same time, we wish to make a few minor tweaks to the plan to ensure it is the best and most safe fit for community and neighbors. Next slide. Okay, so this is our counter proposal. So rather than filling up the balance of the space of the street area with trees and shrubbery and whatnot, what we are proposing is that it be left open in a natural state and to be used as a common area. Now I'm giving you the nutshell version of our counter proposal to the city, and our intent, as I said earlier, is to both get it done by the summer build time as well as keeping costs down. What we would like is to have all of the green area left as a green space for common use, and in return for the city, we are willing to take on several obligations that the city would not have to pay for. For example, right now part of the plan is to build a gravel access road to one of those tax lots. We would waive that. We would also take the obligation of the 2 tax lots. If they can be decertified as tax lots, our HOA is willing to take back ownership of them as green space. Therefore, the city does not have any further obligation for them. Same thing for that home right there that was condemned and has subsequently been knocked down. Rather than the city taking it on as a tax obligation and then paying HOA dues and whatnot, we will take it back as green space. Boom, that obligation is gone. Furthermore, any further improvements to this area, for example, let's say that we decide to put up some public park or some park benches. Or garbage service. Let's say that we want to put a concrete pad on there and have garbage service once a week. The HOA will take on this obligation, paying in part or in full for all these services. One less thing the city has to worry about, et cetera, et cetera. So we are very willing to accommodate the city's need for a budget-friendly plan. All we're asking for, if you can go back one slide, please. All we are asking for is not that, because we have a lot of elderly neighbors and elderly neighbors and young kids who use that area, and it's not safe. This plan, because it's dark, this doesn't quite take into account what it really looks like on the street. It would be dark, it would be full of shadows where anything could happen. And right here at the at this office right here, code enforcement, we already have several complaints about illegal camping in the area, and other potentially troubling problems that we just don't want the liability for.
Okay.
Also,
your 3 minutes are up. I'm
yes.
sorry.
Okay, let me wrap up very quickly. If you look at those two letters that I sent, one is from the Assistant State Director of the USDA, and he has said this plan right here could potentially become a wildlife corridor leading to vermin and predators in the neighborhood. Now, I know we all have coyotes in our neighborhoods, but we don't want them between the homes. Does anybody have any questions for me right now?
Well, we generally don't ask questions or have discussion from public comment. We take the public comment. I don't think this is a discussion where we won't get into a discussion at this time.
That's fine.
We'll follow up with staff on the project.
That's fine. We're actually due to meet with John Lewis next week, next Wednesday, and we're going to go more into depth. But like I said, my intent here is just to get this in front of you guys, so when John Lewis comes back with our full proposal, you guys already know about this, you're not surprised, and we meet that deadline because we want that build by this summer. So that's all we're asking for.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
All right, Carla Laws. And then after that, we'll have Paul Edgar. And Carla, I believe you're speaking for the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Carla Laws on Roosevelt Street and Elyville Neighborhood Chair. I am here today to discuss several things. Number one is we're having a tremendous amount of R2 zoning being developed in our neighborhood at a rapid rate, which is a lot for our neighborhood process, a lot of volunteers, a lot of residents who just feel overwhelmed, not being informed, just because a lot of them work. So it's a hard thing to process. Number two is, we had discussed before that at the time was Barclay Hills Neighborhood Association, now Elyville Neighborhood Association, about the zoning, R2 zoning around Singer Creek Basin. And the neighbors, had mentioned this a while back. They are still concerned and had voted by the neighborhood association to motion to reevaluate the comprehensive plan of R2 zoning around Singer Creek Basin. It impacts, even if it comes down to notifying the neighbors with R2 zoning that went from R6 to R2 10 years ago that weren't informed, now to inform them and let them be a part of the process, that would be fantastic. I'm concerned about the environmental impact on Singer Creek, which doesn't only affect Elyville Neighborhood Association, it affects McLaughlin Neighborhood. It also affects parts of Crest neighborhood. The environmental impact that directly goes into the river, that goes underneath McLaughlin neighborhood, that those vents through the pipe of Singer Creek have to be emptied several times a day during hard rain. And just the infrastructure of stormwater, because, us down the hill, I live on Roosevelt Street, for instance, and we get a lot of runoff. The infrastructure is why our water bills are so high of stormwater. And if we're just building and building above us, what the heck's going to happen below us? So I'm very interested in trying to pursue that. It's a motion that was made at the end of last year in fall by the neighborhood association. Number three, my final point, I had mentioned during a land use appeal about ORS 227180, The mayor was kind enough to have the city attorney approach me, and he did try to contact me over phone. My concern is looking back at videos in 2009, 2010 concerning the explanation of the same ORS 227.180(1A) was used differently than it was during a land use appeal. And I don't want you to rehash the land use appeal, but I am concerned. I'm hearing that a lot of the city commission was not informed of that discussion. And it's concerning to me that I don't have a city commission that knows exactly what city staff is advocating to the commission. And it's concerning to me that I can't get an answer in writing about an explanation. And it makes it to where I can't represent my neighborhood properly. It makes it convoluted on the understanding of law, and I can't ask public record on it because it was supposedly during an executive session, but I know a lot of the commission doesn't know about it, and it's pretty frustrating for me. And I just wanted to bring it up as a concern because I'm hoping that the city commission can be advised properly, legally, and of course it's brought up my concerns, which I've advocated for in the past, that the city attorney should check into the city commission rather than utilizing the city manager, because I am concerned about overall on how the city commission is being advised. I appreciate your time and your volunteer time, and thank you very much for listening.
All right, thank you, Ms. Laws. Mr. Edgar.
Good. My name is Paul Edgar. I'm a citizen of Oregon City and live in Kanema. The reason why I'm here tonight is to show through these maps all of these areas in yellow. These areas are unimproved city right-of-way, including I have an alleyway running right through my part of my house. There's a house down on 4th Avenue that has an alleyway running through it. The streets went up during the ice storm. John and had some of his people come in and help some dangerous trees right in my area, Ganong Street. But I knew John and I contacted him and it's right of way, but none of this is maintained. This is a historic district and a lot of it's running wild and just blackberries and everything is just no responsibility. And so I'm trying to start this first phase of trying to introduce the idea of turning this property over like an alleyway, over to the neighbors, splitting it side by side. Some of those properties that are not needed, they're unimproved, and eliminating the cost to the city, putting them on the tax rolls, and making it a win-win for the city, for the neighborhood, and maybe you have conditions of approval of doing it. That's fine. Maybe you want to restrict some development on those previous right-of-ways. That's fine. The idea is really to start maintaining them, get them to a position where they're an asset, not a liability to the city. And my hope is to just introduce it, have you take a look at the map and see how much there is there. We would want to go through every case and have a situation where people on both sides say, yes, I would like to have it vacated. If they don't, then we don't do it. But if it comes, I want that option, and I would love to have the city in sync with us making a request. But we'll try to do all of the homework for you, bring together a proposal. I've gained permission to talk before the CNA Neighborhood Association at their next meeting. We'll talk more, and I'm going to work with everyone to try to come up with a good plan, and I just hope that it's something that you'll consider out in the future. Thank you.
Okay. Can you tell me real quick, what are the red lines and the blue lines on that map? I know the yellow are obviously the right-of-way. What's the red and the blue?
Water.
They're water and sewer lines.
Okay. That's what I figured, but I wanted to know for sure. All right, thank you. Do we have any other public comment, Jacob? None online or anybody else? Okay. All right. That is all of our citizen comments. I know I have a bunch of notes, and thank you for making those. All right, our next item on the agenda is presentations. We have an update from the library board.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Commissioners. I'm David Goldberg. I'm the chair of the Oregon City Library Board. I'm pleased to be here tonight to present the Library Board's 2021 annual report and give you some highlights of what took place in this very difficult year that we're just finishing. Like 2020, much of 2021 was spent addressing the ongoing and evolving challenges of COVID. The pandemic certainly had a major impact on the library, as it did for the rest of the city. Throughout the entire year, the library board and staff spent large amounts of time, weekly, and energy evaluating pandemic conditions. What's safe? What is fair? What should be open? What needs to be closed? What materials needed to be cleaned? And I'm sure every department of the city went through similar kinds of analyses and discussion. Along with the rest of the community, we were delighted to celebrate the full normal operating hours that finally came back in July of 2021. I want to personally express my thanks for the leadership of the library and the staff that worked tirelessly to make this possible. Running a public library is difficult enough, given the constraints that the pandemic has presented us. It was miraculous that we were able to continue to provide somewhat more limited, but nonetheless very comprehensive services at the library. Earlier in the year, the library board welcomed two new board members, Elizabeth Zinter and Heidi Blackwell, which you both approved. Both were approved by this council, this commission. We are grateful for their energy and their perspectives, and they're really adding new voices to the library. Further, I want to thank the mayor again for helping us to interview two additional board members, and we have reappointed two that have had a great deal of experience both in libraries and in the regional picture of in which our library exists. At the start of the year, the library board reviewed and provided feedback on the 21-23 budget proposal as part of our fiduciary role. We reviewed the results of the 2020 community survey, and we were pleased that the library continues to earn high marks from the survey respondents. The survey results also identified some key areas of potential improvement, including providing services to teens, increasing community outreach, and these have become priorities both for the board and for the staff. In July, the library board members received a presentation and had a very robust discussion about overdue fines. We examined the topic from a variety of perspectives, including learning more about the financial impact of the fine revenue, as well as looking at potential equity and access issues related to overdue fines. This was also reiterated by every library in the area. This is a very interesting issue. In late summer, the library board began a process of reviewing the current strategic plan. My professional background is in developing strategic plans for large government agencies and for countries' health systems, and so this is a particular interest of mine. I believe that our strategic plan was a little too busy. And I thought from the standpoint of the board that we wanted to simplify it, give very clear direction to the staff about what the strategic priorities should be and what objectives we'd like to see improvement on in the coming year. We are now turning this new draft over to the staff to come up with a tactical plan to implement tactics that will in fact improve and deliver on that strategy. The library board continues to fulfill its responsibility in reviewing the annual statistical report that goes to the state, reviewing annual progress reports for the submission of the Library District Advisory Council, LDAC, and reviewing and providing feedback on library policies and changes. Our library board has continued to be involved in the community and serves as liaison to many library support groups. Nick Dickman, one of our library board members, continues to be our LDAC liaison. Larry Osborne is our liaison to the Friends of the Library. Cynthia Andrews serves as a board liaison and active member of the Oregon City Library Foundation. As we look forward to 2022, we're continuously and cautiously optimistic and hopeful that the worst of the pandemic will soon be behind us. We look forward to working with the library staff to help the library to continue to make progress on numerous initiatives and to continue to be one of the gems of our community. On behalf of the members of the library board, I want to thank you for your time tonight. Thank you and the mayor and the commission for the opportunity to provide this important service to the residents and the citizens of Oregon City and the surrounding area. I thank you for your past support and look forward to working with you to continue to have a robust library in the future. And I'm here with the executive director. If there are any questions, we're happy to respond. Thank you.
Greg, do you have anything to say or no? Or you're here for support?
Nope, just here for support, just in case there are any questions. Thank you very much, David. I think David did a great job. We're very glad to have David as such a strong supporter on our library board.
Thanks, Greg. Are there any questions or comments?
Just thank you.
I just have one, and I don't know if it's something that I saw online with another library or if I'm recalling something with this library. Do we have a program where there's like a week or two where folks can come in and lines and fines will be forgiven or something like that? Don't we have something like that?
Yeah, we do. We have multiple opportunities throughout the year to allow patrons to work off fines. During the pandemic, all the libraries in Clackamas County agreed not to levy fines while the pandemic was causing wreaking such havoc. Even once libraries have started to reinstitute those, at our library, we have been very, very understanding. We want to work with people. To us, the most important thing is that people have access to their library. And if fines are presenting a financial barrier to that access, we're going to do everything we can to work with folks to restore that access. There are several times throughout the year. There's one coming up, usually for National Library Week, which is in April. We do a Food for Fines program. In previous years, it's been a link-wide, Clackamas County-wide initiative. There were just some emails going around our directors group today to figure out how we're going to do it this year and collecting all those cans. So yes, we do have lots of opportunities. And again, I want to assure the commission, there will never be a time when an overdue fine serves as a barrier and prevents somebody from coming to the library and accessing the library and the services we offer.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking that we had opportunities for like programs for trying to forgive fines and such like that. So, well, it'd be interesting to see what your report and analysis comes up with on trying to work on the fines issue. It sounds like, I believe you said that's a project for this that you're working on right now.
We've spent several board meetings discussing the issue, and we don't want it to be a barrier.
Right,
we don't want people to feel like they're not welcome because they have some fines. Now, if material has gone missing, that's a different situation. We're talking about late fines.
Okay. Well, I think everybody here knows our library is a gem. We agree with you. It is a gem for our community, and it gets rave reviews online and by our community and is well used. So good job.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks for coming. All right, we're going to move on in the agenda. We have the adoption of the agenda and our consent agenda. Does anybody want to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Just 7A.
Okay, we're going to pull just 7A.
Just 7A.
Okay. We will move that to general business at the end. Do I have a motion on the?
Yes, I'd like to move the remainder of the consent agenda, items 7B, C, D, and E.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Adam Marl. Aye. Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
And Mayor Rachel L. Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, so our next item is public hearings. This is the appeal of the Historic Review Board decision. The City Commission discussed this item at our last meeting, and my understanding is the record's closed. I don't have to open a public hearing. It's just, at this point, updated findings have been presented, and this is a moment for deliberation or questions of staff, or if you do not feel like the revised findings reflect what your decision was at the last meeting, now is the chance to discuss those and make any changes. Commissioner McGriff.
Yes, I would say that the revised findings are exactly what we had specified, and as directed by our city attorney, it includes all of the findings and facts and conclusions of law, and I would support adoption.
Any other comments? No? Okay. Do we have a motion?
I would like to move that we adopt the findings as submitted for appeal hearing AP 210006, GLUA 21-00052, HR 21-00020, modification of HR 20-00001 as submitted.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Looking at Mr. Kabaisman, he's not looking at me, so I guess he doesn't need to read anything. Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Adam Morrow?
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell?
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff?
Aye.
Commissioner Rocky Smith?
Aye.
And Mayor Rachel Wilson.
Abstain. I'm abstaining because I was not here at the last meeting to provide comment and review. Thank you, Christina, for coming. I know I saw you, I saw staff come up, but I got guidance that we didn't need a presentation and we're zipping on through, so thank you for coming.
Oh, is there anything we have to say at the end of this because it's an appeal?
Sorry, Commissioner McGriff. No, there isn't. This is just the final decision, and we'll see what the property owner does and what they do next.
So if they did go to the Land Use Board of Appeals?
Could be appealed to the Land Use Board of Appeals. They may have a different approach that they might file an application for. You know, I don't know if there's been any discussion with staff, but at this point, it's in the applicant's hands as what to do next.
Okay, I think the ball is in their court, right, if they want to take any other action. Okay. All right, so now we are at general business, where we're going to take item 7A. This is around a tree removal. Commissioner McGriff, do you have some questions for staff?
Yes, I thoroughly read the report and also the comments that were submitted. I do want to say for the record that I did do a site visit, close up and personal. I walked up the right of way of the alley there and looked at the tree from all angles. And I would say I concur generally with the proposal. However, what I would like to have us consider is that I think that two things. We need to have a little bit more mitigation. I think one tree is not enough. I thought that we had specified in our previous meetings about tree removal, and then I don't see any plans for reuse. And I think I'm looking at the comments from the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association. There are some things that they feel weren't answered, so I think that it would be appropriate to respond to that. I'm not sure about the geohazard, and it is I believe that portion of the district is still within the conservation district, but there are a few other things. So I thought that the information provided by, and do you pronounce it Terrigan Associates, and I'm presuming these are people that we've used them before, and they're kind of like our on-call arborist folks. They did a good job of documenting everything. I think two things. So we've got a couple of issues with regard to just trees in general. You know, we all are very aware of how much tree canopy we lost during the storm, and I think anything that we can do to plant some additional trees. And I had talked to John about, I said, well, it's too bad we don't have a curb and a sidewalk on that portion of Jefferson because that would be the ideal location. But I think that we also need to look at vis-a-vis the loss of the trees that we had over the ice storm last year. It seems like it just happened, but it was a year ago. That we should promote a culture of helping trees live, particularly the bigger ones. And obviously, I totally applaud the city's efforts that we're doing at the library park because we've got huge elms there that are being inoculated and being taken care of. Unfortunately, we have not replanted the ones that were removed because we said we would do some replanting in the park, and that hasn't happened yet. So that's just one of the things on the list. But I think we need to do everything we can if we're taking the tree out to try to add to the tree canopy that we lost. And again, we planted trees on 7th Street, and I noticed there were some more that are going to have to be replanted. They've been taken away, and they're kind of chopped off at the kneecap, so to speak, but those are going to be replaced, and those are coming along quite nicely unless somebody runs into them with a car, which we've just had happen again, unfortunately, down on 7th. I don't know about people driving on the sidewalk, but so that's really the couple of issues. And if you feel comfortable in addressing the comments that were submitted, that would be, great. And again, we are a tree city, and I know that the threshold for getting that designation is not super high, but we can always go up over and beyond the call of duty. So I'd like to see reuse of the tree and a better mitigation plan.
I'll go ahead and address these comments since it so this tree was reported by 2 neighbors. So it is in a public right-of-way. Again, I think the arborist report and the amendment speak for themselves. The tree replacement requirement is consistent with code. If you want to add more, we can add more trees. We just kind of need to know how many. And our intention was to plant them back in that right-of-way.
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah, for some reason it's coming really, it's really low.
How about now?
Yeah,
better.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's closer. You're closer.
So, as I was saying, I think the number of trees replacement is consistent with the code. So if the tree is dead or dying or diseased, that limits the amount of tree mitigation that you would have to do, as opposed to if it wasn't, then all of a sudden, the larger the diameter, the more trees you have to replace. But this one is dead, diseased, and dying based on the arborist report. So it's a 1-for-1 replacement. That's what we're proposing. It's in a remote area, so it's not super visible, but the few people that live on that dead-end street would see it. Our proposal is to put them back, just like the code requires, in that same area, in that right-of-way. So that's our intention right now. But if the commission wants us to, go above and beyond the code, we sure can. With regard to reuse, we don't exactly know what we're going to find in that tree. We found other trees like that look pretty rotted. So our intention is to use it as, make it available to the community like we do in many tree situations where we make it available for firewood. And we typically place that up near the kind of the power line strip up by Joanne Fabrics up there. That's usually where we move things. So that's our intention on this one as well. So that's the reuse element. Commissioner McGriff, I think you asked about the historic zone. What I heard today from Dilion was that it was outside of that. I'm not referring to it properly, but
the conservation
district. So I don't think that issue applied. And then just back to looking at some of it is in the geologic hazard, but there's also an exemption for dead and dying trees in the geologic hazard code. So there's nothing really for us to do there. So I think it's pretty straightforward. We're removing the trees. We think there's a liability there, a significant liability for the property owners that live around it. So when they notified us, our staff reviewed it as well and kind of worked to get to this point. So happy to, it's up to the commission in terms of how they'd like to deal with this. we get a fair amount of these trees, and there's a lot of effort that goes into trying to get to this point. So if we want to change our code, I think we should put this on the list if that's the interest of the commission. Obviously, we don't need a code change for you to direct us to do more plantings. Happy to, whatever the commission wants.
So Mayor Lyle Smith, he got to part of the questions and the that are on the comments.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at. The question, so is it going to become firewood? And if it does, and you put it at the property next to Joanne's, I know where you're talking about the power line, how do we let folks know that there's firewood that's available?
I'm not sure.
Was that in the report, Mr. Lewis?
In the report, I think it's the first.
I mean, in your commission
City
report.
staff application for removal. It says that we are turning it into firewood. So the McLaughlin neighborhood comments came before the application was submitted. I got a chance to look at it, and other staff got a chance to look at it after it had been submitted and after it got distributed to the McLaughlin neighborhood. When we saw it, we saw a few things that needed to be fixed and addressed. So this is a revised report that went out. We did talk to the neighborhood, but it does address the reuse. It says wood will be repurposed as firewood under item 7 of the city staff application for removal of significant public trees form. So that's
Yeah,
our
I had to dig for it. That's why I was asking. I was looking for it in your commission report as opposed to having to go through, which I did. I read everything and I saw it there, but it didn't mention anything in your commission report about that. So is that the only option you're considering, or are you going to wait until it gets cut down? And if there's a reuse, then you would do that? Or are you just saying, no, I'm not going to look at the tree and it's just going to be firewood? Because I think that's not, I don't feel good about that. If we can reuse the tree in some way, then we should do that, because that's what we've said we would want to do. And then if we can't, then that's the second alternative, but you didn't offer the first alternative. I just think, again, as a city, we shouldn't be doing just the minimum. We should be doing a little bit of and over and beyond to inspire our community to do the same thing. So I know you said that this is the minimum it requires. Let's do more, because we're the city. This is our code. We're showing our citizens, hey, look, now we could do the minimum, but we're not. We're going to do a little more. So I think that's really the appropriate message to be sending to our community, instead of saying, well, we only have to do this. We want to do more. We should be wanting to do more.
So where's the rest of the commission on this? It sounds like the proposal that you put together was to go ahead, you were going to repurpose it as firewood. And I think the question is, if there's an opportunity to repurpose it based on the quality of the wood after it's cut down, is that an option, I guess, is the question. And what's the...
Yeah, I'd like it to be considered. I think it should be considered. And then if it isn't, then go to Plan B. I mean, I'm not opposing the removal. I think it needs to be removed. I looked at it, like I said, I went up and looked at it, and everything that she talked about, I was like, whoa, this is got some problems.
What's the pleasure of the commission? And would you like additional trees planted or following code as presented? I'll go by one by one. Commissioner O'Donnell.
I'm not sure how you make a determination that the tree is suitable for reuse. I mean, is it structurally sound? I mean, is a section of it good and a section of it not? Do you cut it up into pieces only to find out that it's not? I mean, what is the proposed reuse use? And so I'm not sure how to accomplish that or what those costs would be. So much as I felt strongly about trees in the past that I knew had a specific use and had value, I don't feel strongly about this. And I don't feel strongly about doing other than honoring the code as it's currently written. And that's where I'm at on it.
The difference is I think in trees in the past, the one that got everybody's attention was
Right.
because it was lifting sidewalks, and therefore it wasn't determined that it was diseased and dying and all of it. So therefore, we knew that it had good wood that would be repurposed. In this case, it's falling under the category of disease, dying, another word that you said, and anyway, it falls into it to be destroyed, but.
And the tree you referenced, the one that was so controversial, was a
Right.
high-value tree. I mean, the wood
The
itself
wood
had
was
high
valued.
value.
Right.
This is questionable at best, which would mean we'd have to incur additional costs. Quite honestly, not to disagree with my respected compatriot, but I'm fine with as it stands. This one can be firewood.
Okay, Commissioner Smith.
I don't have any issues with it.
Okay, Commissioner Morrow.
I'm fine with the proposal as is.
All right. And I am too, based on the fact that this is declared a diseased tree. Obviously, something magical happens on the day you cut it down and you see something that it's probably unlikely.
Very specific.
So
It sounds like it's still it would still be a judgment call either way.
So you all think just putting one tree in is plenty, even though we have this deficit of trees in our community because of the storm? Again, as I said, I think we need to go up over and beyond the call of duty when we can. And I think this is an opportunity where we can.
I don't want to go above the call of duty when we're replanting in a right-of-way that's, to me, looks like it's already a crowded right-of-way. Now, if we wanted to talk about replanting trees in other areas of the city or replanting in parks or something like that, then.
Planting some additional trees elsewhere where we've had some trees not survive.
I feel like that's a conversation for another night. We do have the Friends of Tree program. We do invest in trees, replanting back into the city. I know I have heard from a couple of folks about the trees on Malala, and John and I have emailed with residents about those trees on Malala and getting them fixed, and we've had multiple email exchanges. So I know we are working on our trees, and I feel like we are doing a good job. It looks like, Mr. Conkle, you have something to add.
No, I was agreeing. There are multiple other programs that we are utilizing in response to the ice storm, as well as our ongoing Friends of Tree work that we do every year in the neighborhoods. So hopefully we don't just consider this an isolated event. I do feel on the whole, we are trying to repopulate the loss and damage that we saw last spring.
Okay, my only question was, did we get back to the McLaughlin Neighborhood Association with answers to these questions? We did.
We did.
All right. Anything else? We need a motion on this.
I move to approve the removal of a 45-foot DBH big leaf, or 45-inch DBH big leaf maple located in the unimproved right-of-way between 1508 and 1510 Jefferson Street.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Wiley?
Commissioner Adam Morrow.
Aye.
Commissioner Frank O'Donnell.
Aye.
Commissioner Denise McGriff.
No. For the reasons I stated, I'm not opposed to removing the tree. I'm opposed to, I just want us to do more. So it's the only reason I'm voting no.
Commissioner Rocky Smith.
Aye.
And Mayor Rachel L. Smith.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, so our next item on the agenda is communications. Mr. Conkle?
I have nothing for tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, commissioners, any communications?
No.
Commissioner Morrow? No? Commissioner Smith? No? Just making sure you're covering everybody.
Actually, I have a few things. It might take a few hours. No, I'm good.
Frank has a whole list there, he's got in his pocket.
Yeah, he's got a big list.
The only way that I'll be verbalizing a list is if you've taken ventriloquism classes. Because I'm not doing it.
That I want to see.
All right, and then lastly, Mayor Communications. I just want to say thanks to everybody for the well wishes and the cards to recover from my unexpected appendix removal. And I'm glad you all carried on without me. I was very confident that you would do that, but I do appreciate the well wishes that I've received. And so thank you very much. I'm here, so obviously I'm on the road to recovery, not back to running or anything yet, but I will be there before too long. So
Just got to miss the fun hearing.
Yeah. And with that, I just want to say thanks. Oh, and also I'll say kudos to the hospital. I put this online, but my experience at our hospital, one, it was really great to have a local hospital that was literally right down the road that I could walk into on a Saturday morning to the emergency room, and everybody was fantastic. The staff there was fantastic. I was in surgery that afternoon and I was home that night. So it was a whirlwind of a weekend, but if you have needed to go to our hospital for an emergency or to use their services, I'm sure I've heard lots of good things about them, and I just want to be the testimony for our local hospital, and kudos to them, and I really appreciate
Well,
it.
I would second that. Having been a patient there myself, I was very well taken care of, and I will say that, you know, Willamette Falls gives excellent care.
Yeah, it's a great asset. So, and with that, we're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.